Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the Denver Broncos 2019 NFL Draft Class based on analytics. And if you're new to the channel and new to the work that I do, all terms and definitions will be in the description. With all that stuff out of the way, let's get to the data. So first off, you start with Noah Fant, tight end out of Iowa. When you look at his production data, he had an 80.95 market share production score, which pretty much hits above the All-Pro threshold, Pro Bowl threshold, and starter threshold. When you look at the averages at the position, he doesn't really hit above the All-Pro average, but he is above the Pro Bowl average and starter average. So in many ways, Noah Fant has a very good shot of at least being a Pro Bowl to starter tight end or starting tight end. And then, of course, when you look at athleticism data, 97.79 in terms of explosiveness, 96.86 in terms of speed, and 97.48 in terms of flexibility for his size, which when you look at the data, pretty much above the thresholds and the averages in terms of all-pro average and starter average. So he's well above what those averages are. Fant is easily the best pick for the Denver Broncos in terms of their draft. He's athletic. He's really productive. He has all the traits you're looking for in terms of a special tight end. And I think he's a very, very good value, especially getting him towards the bottom of the first round versus the top of the first round. Then, of course, we get to Dalton Risner, offensive tackle out of Kansas State. When you look at his athleticism, he had a 76.68 explosion score, 47.25 speed score, and 78.56 flexibility score. When you look at the thresholds of the position, he's nowhere near the all-pro thresholds, but he is pretty much hits all the Pro Bowl thresholds except for speed, but he's really, really close to the speed threshold, so I'll just kind of give him a pass. When you look at the averages, the biggest thing he lacks is just speed, so he's nowhere near the average all-pro scores or Pro Bowl scores in terms of his overall athleticism, but he's definitely above all the starter averages except for speed. So Dalton Risner pretty much has the profile of a starting tackle or better, potentially. I think that he has great film. I think there's a lot of positives to Dalton Risner, but I do think that he's closer to a starter than a Pro Bowler, but he definitely has that Pro Bowl potential if he is the legit guy. So we'll see down the line, but I think he's a very good shot to become a starter to Pro Bowler based on his overall athleticism traits. Then, of course, we get to Drew Lock, quarterback out of Missouri. When you look at his best single-season FBS production scores, he had 83.54 high school production score and 88.54 FBS Stat Score, which these are his highest scores at high school and in terms of college. Hits above the starting quarterback threshold. Is very, very close to the Pro Bowl quarterback threshold in terms of high school data, and of course hits all the marks you're looking for in terms of FBS data. But the biggest question mark with Drew Lock is his average score. His average FBS score is 49.54 out of 100. When you look at the All-Pro career threshold, it's 77.32, and Pro Bowl career threshold is 64.60. And of course, when you look at the averages at the position, well below average of what the All-Pro career average is, the average Pro Bowl career and starter career averages. So Locke is someone who definitely had seasons where he peaked. He had a high school season that was very, very good. He peaked in his final year at Missouri based on his overall stats, but his all-around stats for his career at Missouri was just average. So that's the only sort of issue with him, is that he's not someone who just entered college football and just was not, if not dominant, at least very, very good. He took a lot of time to get to that point. And when you're making the transition to the NFL, most quarterbacks that were great or very good out of the box and kept being good are usually the ones that go on to become really, really special players. So I do think Drew Lock has a chance to become a starting quarterback at the NFL level, but I don't think he's ever going to be like a special player. He's someone who's always going to be sort of a headache, if you will, at the position. And then, of course, we get to Draymond Jones, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. 67.12 in terms of his solo tackle data, 88.38 in terms of sack data, and 81.80 in terms of tackle for loss data. When you look at the all-pro thresholds, he doesn't really hit in all those areas. Pro Bowl thresholds, he doesn't hit the solo tackle areas he needs to hit, but he does hit all the starter thresholds. All-pro averages and Pro Bowl averages, he's nowhere near those, or even starter averages just because of solo tackle data. But I do think he has a pretty good starter profile in terms of his overall production data. And then, of course, when you look at athleticism traits, this is the one area where he kind of lacks things. 47.06 in terms of explosion, 21.60 in terms of speed, and 27.14 in terms of flexibility for his size. Nowhere near the average explosion score, speed score, or flexibility score for All-Pro/Pro Bowl player, nor a starter player. So he's definitely well below average what he needs to be in terms of athleticism. He has production indicative of a starter, but I do think this is one of those picks that could really go either way. He's either going to be more of a long-term backup or could end up becoming a starter. Then, of course, we get to Justin Holland's defensive end / 3-4 outside linebacker. And I kind of look at him as a rush linebacker, which is why, when you look at 3-4 outside linebacker, look at him as sort of like a rush or a strong linebacker. 78.8414 in terms of solo tackle data, 46.23 in terms of sack data, and 74.88 in terms of tackle loss data. Doesn't quite hit all the areas he needs to hit in terms of All-Pro and Pro Bowl potential. And in terms of athleticism, he does have good speed traits, 53.64 in terms of explosiveness, 93.76 in terms of speed, and 45.64 in terms of flexibility for his size. Doesn't hit all the All-Pro, Pro Bowl areas he needs to hit, but does hit the starting areas. I think Justin Holland has a good profile to be a starter to rotational sort of pass rusher or rush linebacker type. I think he has, good all-around things. I think he's more so probably going to be a special teamer, but he does have the stuff here, the traits here, that he could be a rotational pass rusher. Then the final pick was JaJuan Winfrey, wide receiver at Colorado. When you look at his market share production, 14.39 in terms of passing yards market share production. Doesn't hit the 5-time All-Pro, 3-time All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowl, or long-term starter area. And in terms of averages, nowhere near the averages at the position. So overall, when you look at the Denver Broncos draft class, the one thing that really sticks out to me is I think it's pretty decent. There are some picks that I don't particularly like. Drew Lock is just one of those players that I think, he was being talked about as a first rounder, and I was just very perplexed by it. I mean, he's still, based on data, more of a third round to day 3 type quarterback prospect. But there is enough on paper with Drew Lock to indicate that he could end up becoming a starter. Now, he's not ever going to be a special player based on his overall data, but definitely has a chance to become a starter. Dalton Risner has good starter potential. Noah Fant, of course, has Pro Bowl potential. The defensive tackle you drafted is kind of in between a starter to a backup, but that's still good. And then, of course, Justin Holland is more of like a special teamer / potential rotational pass rusher. And then, of course, you end up with Winfrey, who's more, it's going to be very surprising to see what he ends up being, but definitely based on production, probably not going to be a starter. But this is still a pretty decent class, and I am excited at least by the top picks that they had. It's just very good. I think this is a very good class, and I'm very excited to see what the Denver Broncos do in the future. They could have messed this draft up, and I think they did a lot better than a lot of people expected them to. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification bell in case you want to be reminded when another video of mine drops. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.